Yes, it's that six-a-side segment, the bit that we love and everyone else should love as well. So today we are going to do best left-footed players, which is probably going to be Peter's favourite. He's often said how much he loves the aesthetically pleasing nature of watching a left.
So aesthetically pleasing.
It really is. So we'll open with the goalkeepers, of course, as ever. I think it's going to be a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, I actually couldn't think of another left-footed goalkeeper, particularly, if I'm honest, from Premier League era. And of course, went with our current captain, Hugo Louise, who is absolutely smashing it at the minute. And I'd just like to give a real appreciation shout out. Keep it up. He's been superb. So, Ollie, what have you gone for?
Yeah, I think there might be quite a few full houses in this category. I think, for whatever reason, left-footed players in Spurs haven't been very popular. I should say. But yeah, I've also gone for Lloris. He's the only real choice. I couldn't think of any other left-footed goalkeepers, really. I mean, there aren't really many anyway, I think. But there is something about a left-footed player that, as Peter said, is so aesthetically pleasing.
How many times can we say aesthetically pleasing?
I believe that was 4 so far.
Nice. I don't know. I've looked at my pad to my left, knowing full well that I've gone for Hugo Lloris as well. Making him the 4th ever Triple Crown champion. So well done, Hugo.
Deserved as current skipper. Could you think of another left-footed goalkeeper? Was there anyone who came to mind?
Not for Spurs, no.
No, not at all. I mean, I was going for. I mean, I think to be fair, Lloris is probably the best keeper we've seen, as in what we've watched in our time. There have been some other good goalies, but yeah, none of them left-footed, and also I don't think any of them in the same calibre. So Lloris was an easy pick. With 2 defenders, I went for Jan Vertonghen. Again, for me, I honestly put him with such high regard. I even put him maybe just below Ledley King. Obviously, King can't be in this because he's not left-footed, but that's how highly I rate him, and I think sometimes I even think he might have been just as good at different things, but I adore Jan Vertonghen. I think he's absolutely incredible defender and a great servant to the club for so long. And I pray that they do some kind of testimonial for him because he deserves it, and he certainly earned that. And then the second player I went for, maybe a totally different character, but I went for Danny Rose, another player who I honestly love. And even in the documentary, when people were upset with him, he said his attitude was so bad. And don't get me wrong, he ruined it by saying, and when Daniel gets here, I'll be speaking to him too. that did ruin it, but I absolutely love him. And I loved his ballsy nature. I never used to mind when he'd say, like, you come out and talk to the press. I mean, sometimes you have to just say, come on, mate, be a bit smarter. Don't need to do that. But I just kind of liked him. We like a character sometimes who just says how it is. And if he'd have been more involved in that documentary, he'd have been having a go at players. When I was watching them as a bit of choir boys, we're all very upset, but we're not going to argue about it. Or Lloris moans and then no one speaks. There's no way Danny's not speaking up. In the City documentary, there were talkers and they were all leaders battling with each other and constantly debating. I mean, Fabian Delph was one of the main characters, and I feel like Rose would have been similar to that, always talking. But yeah, I think he is disrespected now. A lot of it's on himself because of he has got a bit of an attitude, but another great servant for the club who really deserves a lot more than what he's getting, especially appreciation in terms of appreciation from the fans who just seem to have completely disregarded him and forgotten about him, same as the club. And that's how the football world is, I guess. It's fickle. But yeah, I went for Jan and Rose.
I've also picked Jan and Rose. But for very similar reasons. I think Vertonghen, like you say, is superb, serving for our club. And if we had Jan Vertonghen 5 years ago coming in now, like, what a team we would have now. I feel he was just a couple of years too early for us, because what a player he was and still is. It's just a shame that he left. I think, had he been with us for 9 years, was it? I think it was quite a decent amount of time with Spurs. What a player! An absolute baller. I mean, you just love him, and he's got the best celebration of any footballer arguably I've ever seen. And much like with Danny Rose, echoing your thoughts, Jez, it's a shame how it ended, because he burst onto the scene with that volley against Arsenal that was just insane. Went very quiet, went away to Sunderland, found a bit of sort of game time and practiced at left back, came back and was the best left back in the country for 2-3 years, alongside Kyle Walker on the other side. And yeah, he had lots of issues with depression and stuff like that, and that really took its toll on him, I think, more than he'd probably care to admit. But unfortunately, it ended, and yeah, it's a shame that he's not got a club now, because he's just sitting in our under 23s or whatever it is, probably not even playing, I don't know. It is a shame, and much like Vertonghen, he's been a great servant to our club, and that's what it is, isn't it?
Pete?
I've chucked a little curveball in here. I've also gone for Jan Vertonghen. I've gone for Jan Vertonghen. I agree with everything you said. He's just incredible player. And what annoys me, it doesn't annoy me, but Toby gets a lot of plaudits, and rightly so. And a lot of people just hold him in much higher regard than Jan. And I think we may all be the other way, where we actually see Jan as being... Toby is class, don't get me wrong, but for me, Jan was a better player. Quickly on the Danny Rose thing, I think the best thing we can do for that man is mutually agree to terminate his contract and let him go and find a club somewhere else. Because, as you say, I was like, fair play to him coming out and talking about his mental health issues, and I think that's really, really important and massive for a player of that calibre and standard to come out and do that. Him being stuck playing with the under-23s is not going to do anything for his mental health. And as we all know, mental health is not something that just suddenly gets fixed like that. So he's not going to be suddenly in a good frame of mind because he's been talking to people. It can easily go back the other way. So that's really important. I've actually not put Danny Rose in not because I don't like him. I agree with everything you said. I think he deserves a testimonial. He was an incredible servant for our club. But I knew you two would put him in, so I just wanted to put some. I like different names being in there. So I put in Christian Ziga, but just because he had a hell of a left foot, and he's just a real solid left back. Sorry, and yeah, I did a little bit of research on him, and I knew his contract was mutually terminated because he was unlucky with knee injuries and stuff. But he was real solid. He played 185 times for Bayern Munich. Went to Middlesbrough and Liverpool and played for us for a bit. But yeah, I just remember him being real solid, scoring some bangers as well. Scored a free kick against Arsenal that was ridiculous. So yeah, I put him in. I know he doesn't get into the team this time, but yeah, just a real solid player with a great left foot. Really different to Danny Rose, actually. More technically gifted than Danny Rose, and Danny Rose was more of an athlete, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. Talking of left backs who scored screamers as well, where were the shouts for Eric Edmond? Absolute banger, and then just disappeared, didn't he, off the face of the earth?
Oh mate, we've done that with loads of players. He did it. And Bello Mabazela scored a banger, disappeared. Yeah. Timothée Tuba scored a worldie against Newcastle.
Other lefty, he's lefty, winning.
Yeah, he's lefty, disappeared. Who's the other one? Midfielder Dean Marnie scored 2 against Everton. Don't know what happened to him. Right, yeah. Midfielders, Jez.
Screamers and then gone. Screamers and then out of here. Leave him with a bit of noise. That's what I like about characters. For the midfielders, I would be well. Actually, I think there were only three big choices. I thought, and I won't say the third one because I'll just see if you guys. Surely one of you have gone for him, but I went for a bit of longevity in it as well. So I went for Moosa Dembele and Gareth Bale were the two guys, and I think really they both deserve to be. And actually, the other man who's in my head very much deserves to be in it as well. But those two, Dembele, just love watching play, and then Bale just carried us for a few seasons at least, where he was just, well, at one point potentially right up there as one of the best players on the planet because he just scored from wherever he fancied. It was ridiculous. They played everywhere for us, didn't he, in that season? He just kind of went, the last one, left mid, right mid, just behind the striker, even up front a few times, and no matter where he picked it up. That's why I think AVB just went, go in the middle, mate, because you can do whatever you want. If you want to go wherever you want to go, do it and go score us goals. And if we get, as the people have been saying, 10% of that guy, wow, we're going to have a season. So, Ollie, what did you go?
I have gone for the GOAT, of course, Moosa Dembele, and also Gareth Bale had to be. I don't know if you saw Jez speak about AVB. He actually spoke about this recently, about him and Bale. And Bale basically came into his office and said that he was finding it really hard playing out wide, kept getting marked out of games. And so AVB said to him, well, why don't you go play in the middle? And he was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And he put in the middle and he scored a hat-trick against Villa. And then literally from that point onwards, he just took off. So give AVB credit for that. And obviously Gareth Bale. But yeah, he's obviously arguably one of our best players ever. Gareth Bale, so he had to be in there in terms of lefties. And Moosa Dembele as well. I've never known a criminally underrated player but be rated by every single player who's played against him. Like media have never bigged him up forever, but every player says he's the hardest player to tackle. Every Spurs player will say he's the best player that they've played with. So it's just mad. Yeah, he's just an absolute beast, isn't he? He had one trick and it always worked, and it dumbfounded me every time. You knew he was going left. You know exactly what he was going to do, and it was just shimmy and gone. So that'll be it.
And Pete?
Good picks. I've gone for Moosa Dembele, another Triple Crown champion. We knew there'd be a few. Yeah, can't praise him enough. Just one of my favourite players ever to watch. Like I say, I was just ghost past people. Yeah. So strong. I think he will admit himself he didn't score enough goals for a player of his ability. I know he was starting from a lot deeper. But I think he should have scored more, set up more for them. He should have been for us as highly rated as Yaya Toure was for City, in my opinion. In that sort of that mould, in that he should have carried us through games and taken them by the scruff of the neck and stuff. And then my second choice, I've gone for arguably my favourite Spurs player ever, in Rapha Van Der Baar. I imagine he was the one that was in your head, Jez, that needed to go in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't leave him out. For those 2-3 years that we had him, he was just sensational. He could do no wrong. And how quickly he loved the club. Goals against Arsenal constantly, just to their fans whenever he scored. Just a real good character to have in and around it. And yeah, just another one I just absolutely adored watching, and quickly became one of my all-time favourites. So I think we might have to wait for the final round before we do anything, because I've slightly cheated with my centre forward.
Yeah.
Oh, right, my centre forward.
Well, as soon as Pete didn't put Bale in one of his centre mids, you knew that he put him up front, because how can you explain not having him in there? Also,
I did think about Mido. I thought about Mido for a minute.
What a career! The man was at Roma and Spurs. What a career!
He was good for one season, Spurs.
Yeah, he really was. Yeah, but also, Pete, with your picks as well. I mean, Rapha I absolutely adored as well, and both of those guys, Dembele, always bossed Arsenal. Not like Rapha did, where Rapha seems to just score against them every time. And as you said, that celebration, that was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or when he ruffled Jack Wilshere's hair, like.
Well,
because that was when he
nutmegged him twice.
Yeah, he nutmegged him twice and then gave him a little hey. That's so good.
He was quality for that. Like, really good at winding players up at the same time as looking incredibly charming. So good. What a player. And yeah, I was upset I was tempted by what I believe you've done, but I decided, you know what, it's wrong. And I'm not doing it.
You put Helder Postiga in your worst ever team as a midfielder.
What you've done is wrong, and you should be ashamed of yourself. So I ended up picking Louis Saha. That's the best left-footed striker, I think. I thought to myself, I keep putting Defoe in the team, so I thought, just put Defoe in and say he's got
Pussy Ranger.
But I couldn't put the Pussy Ranger in again, so it had to be King Louis. King Louis had to have it.
Well, I've gone for King Rapha up front. I thought of the three, between him and Bale, I thought he was more likely to actually be able to play up front. When he played for Spurs, I'm sure he wants to play up front at least once. So I'm just saying that. But yeah, you can't leave out Rapha. Those 2 or 3 seasons that he was with us for were just unbelievable. He'd come out of Madrid and he was a proper, the last time I can remember a transfer, and you just got no idea. It was just like, We signed Van Der Baar.
Yeah.
Now, I remember I was away with my family in France, so this was during a time where getting signal abroad was just nothing. And I remember I had to go into the bar, and it was like half past 12 or something, sort of time, whatever it was. Looked at my phone, I was like, we signed me, nothing's going to happen. And it was like, holy shit, we signed Rapha Van Der Baar, like absolutely out of nowhere. And it was like, what's going on there? And yeah, what a player he was for us. And the Arsenal goals, the Champions League goals, the Inter Milan game where he just what a player, what a player. And what a striker.
Before you go, Pete, before you leave, have you heard Redknapp talk about when Levy gave him the call about Van Der Baar? Harry Redknapp says that he literally got a call from Levy, and Levy said, like, got a present for you. And he went, what?
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
What do you mean? I've got you Rapha Van Der Baar. Do you want him? I said, of course I bloody do. What do you think I am? And he's asked the price, and he was like, what? He was like, how he's done that, I'll never know. But yeah, I like that from Levy. Got a little, like, what a Cockney sort of, got a little present for you. What do you want,
dealer?
But yeah, I think that's cheeky from you, Ollie. But okay, go on, Pete.
I think it's less cheeky than Peter's.
I disagree. I think yours is much cheekier than me. I've gone Gareth Bale up top, and I think that's arguably more likely to happen. And I actually think it's going to have to be how we set up, because we have to get those three in, don't we? Dembele, Rapha, and Bale all have to be in there. They can't not.
What I would say, Pete, is in 11-a-side, I'd agree with you. The way I was thinking was Bale is definitely more suited to being a striker, and much more likely than Rapha Van Der Baar. But in 6-a-side, possible that you would prefer to have a player like Rapha Van Der Baar kind of holding up the play more so than a player to run in behind, because it's not really going to be in space in behind. It's a little 6-a-side. Right. So we have to think about, if we're really trying to organise a 6-a-side team, maybe we do go with Ollie. Or of course there is King Louis. Of course.
King Louis not in. Yeah, fine. I'm happy for it to be on that argument on 6-a-side tactics. Rapha up top, Bale and Dembele in the middle of the park.
Well, arguably it had to be Bale, because Jerry and I both picked Bale for a midfielder.
No, do it. Yeah, well, fine. Sorry. Yes, correct. No.
All right, let's hear it then. Let's hear the best Lefties 6-a-side team.
Yes, the Are You Not Entertained best lefty team that would dominate many 6-a-side leagues, might I add. The absolute captain, Hugo Louise in goal. A back two of Vertonghen and Danny Rose. A midfield two, it could just be a one. It could just be Dembele in there, really, let's be fair. With Gareth Bale next to him. And then the star striker of Rapha Van Der Baar up front.
Good team.
Great team.